Breaking news, Ripple's token, XRP, has just flipped Binance's token, BNB. XRP is targeting Solana for the next possible flip. Will it happen? You tell me. It's a good thing you're subscribed because altcoin season has started. At the same time, Russian President Putin has signed a bill into law recognizing Bitcoin and crypto as property, exempting Bitcoin mining and sales from a VAT tax. Russia seems to be front-running the US on crypto adoption. Smash the like button. This is all happening so fast. $225,000 to $250,000 within the next 12 months seems more likely now than ever before. You'll understand why in just a few minutes. Keep watching. We are weeks away from Donald Trump taking office and beginning the process of making the US the crypto capital of the world.
I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA.
There are so many specific tasks Donald Trump has promised to accomplish for the crypto community.
Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon. I want America to be the nation that leads the way, and that's what's going to happen. No, you're going to be very happy with me.
Seriously, as he checks these off, things are going to get really bullish. Particularly this one, National Bitcoin Stockpile, National Bitcoin Reserve. I mean, we've already seen this start to happen on a state level. Texas, Pennsylvania, Florida all want strategic Bitcoin reserves for their state.
And maybe even a greater expansion. We have about $800 million in crypto-related investments in our state portfolio, but I would not be shocked to be able to see that growing under a Trump administration in the near future.
And Donald Trump wants this on a national level. Former CFTC chair Chris Giancarlo says that he actually thinks Donald Trump's national Bitcoin stockpile is very likely to happen, and it's a great idea.
One of the states that are thinking about putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. What do you make about states putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense. So Trump proposed a Bitcoin stockpile, as you know, not a reserve, but a stockpile. It's a subtle difference.
Okay.
Countries have been stockpiling commodities since the dawn of time. We stockpile oil. We used to stockpile gold. China stockpiles rebar and copper and soybeans. Countries stockpile precious commodities as the world's first digital commodity.
Do they have the financial wherewithal, though, to manage that on a balance sheet?
I'd have to look into Pennsylvania's wherewithal, but I do think it makes sense for the United States. I think it's a very forward-looking idea.
And then amazingly, Fundstrat's Tom Lee says he's actually updated his opinion. He now thinks there is a high probability of Bitcoin hitting $250,000 over the next 12 months. It surprised me. He actually seems more bullish now than he's ever been. High probability? Listen to him explain his thesis here.
Part of the reason we have stayed constructive on Bitcoin is the price is following closely the prior halving cycles. The halving cycle, for your viewers, is when the block reward gets cut in half. That happened earlier this year. So there's a reduction in new supply. And the sweet spot of that price gain as supply is cut starts to happen towards the end of this year and then into next year. And I think that has supported why we expected Bitcoin to be 100,000. And over the next 12 months, I think something over 250,000 is possible, but maybe highly probable based on just this following this price cycle. The second reason I think Bitcoin has maybe more upside than that is because the new administration has run on a pro-Bitcoin platform. And I think that the possibility of the U.S. not only legitimizing Bitcoin, but making it a strategic reserve asset, I think raises what would be the possible price scenarios for Bitcoin. Because if the U.S. government, as they intend, ultimately gets to 1 million Bitcoin, they'll be the largest holder of Bitcoin in the world. And they'd exert enormous positive influence on legitimizing Bitcoin. And maybe I would just add to that, it's almost like taking a playbook from MicroStrategy, because MicroStrategy has proven that using Bitcoin as a balance sheet asset has really created a lot of value for MicroStrategy shareholders.
Hey, team, now that December is here, you need to start thinking about your holiday gifts. I highly recommend you download the Fold app. You can do a lot of things with this app. This is the ultimate Bitcoin app. What I'm using it for lately is to buy all my holiday gift cards. You stack so much Bitcoin buying gift cards through the Fold app. Like, first of all, Amazon, Home Depot, Best Buy, IKEA, they have everything. Gas for your car, and beyond that, look how many brands they offer. Everything. You are leaving Bitcoin on the table if you're not taking advantage of this. Download the Fold app now. You can earn so much Bitcoin this holiday season. After Trump creates the US Bitcoin stockpile, a Bitcoin strategic reserve for the US is next, where the US actually starts buying more Bitcoin. You know, Senator Cynthia Lummis is spearheading this bill. Yahoo Finance's #1 analyst, Mark Palmer, educates the Yahoo Finance audience all about this.
There is, from Senator Lummis of Wyoming, a proposal in place to create a Bitcoin reserve.
Well, does the country need a reserve? So I grew up seeing, all right, there's gold is in Fort Knox somewhere, and we need gold, but does the country need a reserve of Bitcoin?
Well, I think this speaks to the concerns about the Federal Reserve continuing to print money, debasing the dollar, and ultimately contributing to inflation, ironically, since one of the mandates of the Fed is to control for inflation. But the thinking is that if the U.S. government is holding a significant amount of Bitcoin, that would effectively be a hedge against those inflationary pressures. We heard Michael Saylor, the executive chairman of MicroStrategy, say that if the U.S. were to establish a Bitcoin reserve, it could cut the federal debt by $17 trillion over time.
So we have known that people like Tom Lee have been bullish on Bitcoin for quite some time. I agree with this thesis, but what's amazing to me is now we're seeing all these TradFi analysts like Mark Palmer and the team over at Yahoo Finance. They're now saying that over the next 12 to 14 to 16 months, they think close to 250,000 Bitcoin happens as well. Listen to this price prediction.
Given the finite supply of Bitcoin, like you mentioned, if we create this reserve, and where does the price of Bitcoin go? I think Saylor was calling for $13 million. You sit here today and it's having trouble breaking through 100,000. Like, there's a big gap between 100,000 and 13 million.
Right. We are looking a little bit more near term and just trying to understand the supply and demand dynamics as it pertains to Bitcoin. Of course, the supply of Bitcoin is capped. The fourth halving that occurred back in April is contributing to a slowdown in the new supply of Bitcoins. And as a consequence of that, it's really about what is the demand part of the equation going to look like. The fact that we are seeing increased institutional adoption of Bitcoin is the key here. Bitcoin is that odd asset class where retail investors really led the way in terms of early adoption. And institutional investors, while they've expressed interest, we saw a Fidelity Digital Assets survey showing that over 65% of institutional investors were interested in crypto, thought that at some point they might invest in it, but again, there were things that were holding them back, including an uncertain regulatory environment. And so as we see institutions follow the lead of BlackRock and others in the space, especially given the fact that at the beginning of the year, we saw the SEC approve the first spot Bitcoin ETFs, and now they're proliferating.
Now you mentioned pension. You mentioned to me off camera, pension funds are getting involved too, right?
They are. The state pension funds of Michigan and Wisconsin have begun to buy spot Bitcoin ETFs. Even the city of Jersey City, New Jersey has done so as well. The reality is that you've got a lot of underfunded pensions. Bitcoin is a non-correlated asset with a lot of potential upside. So adding a portion of the portfolio in the form of Bitcoin makes sense. And just as you see these same pension funds adding gold ETFs in the beginning part of the 21st century, I think that's probably the best analogy, simply because what started off as very small became huge with GLD and the other gold ETFs, really becoming mainstream over time. If that continues and we continue to see institutions finding ways that they can fit Bitcoin and crypto into their portfolios, well, that's going to significantly increase the demand for Bitcoin, and that's how you get to a significantly higher price. We assume in our analysis of MicroStrategy, for example, that the price of Bitcoin will reach $225,000 by the end of 2026.
Wow, I mean, 2026 is not that far away.
Correct. One of the things that gives us some confidence is the fact that history is our guide. After the first 3 Bitcoin halvings, that again, these occur every 4 years. So we had one in 2012, we had another in 2016, another in 2020. During the 14 to 18 months following the halving, we saw a significant uplift in the price of Bitcoin, which again really reflects a change in the supply-demand dynamics for Bitcoin. What could be different this time is that you could see institutional adoption of crypto really accelerate that trend.
Well, and that 225, what is probably conservative?
It could well be at the end of the day. What it really comes down to is to what extent do institutions get involved, and to what extent does this newly positive backdrop for Bitcoin and crypto translate into upside.
Look, guys, if you're waiting for a dip, don't wait too long. I mean, of course, there's going to be plenty of dips throughout this bull market, but we just broke over all-time highs very recently. We are in the most important part of this bull run. We've been warning you that this time would come, and now we're here. Subscribe to our channel. We're going to keep you updated on this every step of the way. Hey, if you're new, watch any of our videos over the last 6 months. These videos are still very much good. And beyond that, new videos coming every day. See you tomorrow.